Today I want to talk about progress. Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin, and in today's video we're going to be having a flip through of my very first bullet journal. Originally I actually wasn't going to put up a video this weekend, just because I'm fairly busy at the moment, but the nice part about doing a flip through is that all of the pages are already set up. Now, a few points before we get into flipping through this journal. 1. This is the first video I've ever done a redo of. I've actually already done a flip through of this journal back at the start of 2018, but instead of just flipping through this one journal, I took you through my first 2 journals together. Not really supportive of that choice anymore, and that video certainly does have some flaws. For instance, the audio quality wasn't as great, and you can certainly tell I was a bit nervous. Plus, I was still using that background music that wasn't ideal, so I figured having a redo-over was a good idea. Secondly, just as I mentioned at the start of this video, I think that looking back at old journals is a great way to see your progress. Whether that be in terms of the lettering, or page design, or even just the types of layouts you're using. Looking back is a cool way to see how far you've come. On that note, we have the third point, which is kind of more of a disclaimer. Some of these pages are not very pretty. Some aren't filled in all the way. There will be mistakes, and there will be things in strange orders, and that's okay. This journal was started back in 2016, and as I said, it was my very first bullet journal. I was still experimenting and finding out what types of things worked for me and what didn't. With all that said though, I think it's time to get into the journal. When I first started bullet journaling, the number one journal for most people in the community was the LT 1917. So of course I had to have one, and I decided to go with the colour anthracite. My journal, which I ordered from Amazon, arrived on November 4th, 2016, and I jumped right in. So we have the front cover, which isn't very decorated, just contains a couple of sticky notes, put my name and email address. In this journal, I actually did use my index, which was probably a good idea because, like I said, a lot of things weren't in a sensible order. This part here, well, I almost cried doing this, but I accidentally dropped my pen with its lid off onto the page. So getting those mistakes in nice and early. The first page I decided to set up was a goals page, and this took so ridiculously long to do. All of this header here was done in pencil, and then erased, and then redone in pencil, and then re-erased. Even just looking at that now, I can see how far my lettering has come. Because when I started in my journal, I was a little bit more pedantic, which is saying something because I'm still pretty pedantic, I wanted to have the goals listed here in order of completion, so I wouldn't actually write them down until I'd done them. And then we're into my first monthly log and habit tracker. You'll probably notice that this was very much inspired by Boho Berry. She was pretty much the first bullet journaling YouTuber I found, so a lot of my spreads were very much inspired by hers. When I first started, I also didn't have quite so many supplies, so a lot of the colouring here is done with pencil, and then filling in this tracker was done with one of the markers that I had from my scrapbooking days. Because my journal arrived on a Friday, I didn't really see the point in setting up a weekly spread, so for the first little bit I did some dailies, and then I get into weeklies later. I wrote myself a list of TV shows to watch, and you'll see that this is not central, and that very much bothers me now, but it obviously didn't bother me when I started. When I first started bullet journaling, another big supply was the mild liners. I think they're still pretty popular, I don't really use mine very much anymore. But they arrived on the 8th, thus starting me slowly building up my collection of pens. So a couple more dailies, some kind of doodle notes down here. And then we're into my first ever weekly. You can see that the pencils didn't do so great in the LT 1917, some of the colours bled through, in particular pinks. But of course, this colour didn't bleed through when I first used the pencil, it's kind of happened since it's been sitting on my shelf for the past few years. For a lot of this journal, I used this kind of style of weekly where I have one page on the left, which is just dedicated to a space for each day of the week, and then something else over here. that changed a bit more. So as you can see, space for each day of the week, something else. So in my something else space on this week, I put a list of list ideas. So pages that I might want to include in my journal. And then when I first started journaling, I was pretty big on the idea of all of the days for 1 month being within the space for 1 month, if that kind of makes sense. So instead of doing another weekly, I just put the last 3 days of November in here, and then December follows my December splash page. Here we again have another instance where I accidentally dropped an open pen on my page. And after a small freak out, which really wasn't that small, I just decided to stick a sticker over it. For December, I wanted to work with a colour palette that was related to Christmas, and instead of just having a plain cover page, I decided to make this kind of like a little memories log, or a line a day kind of thing. So each of the little hexagons we have here is numbered with the day number, and then I'd fill it in with what I did. Again, bleeding pencil. And here is the start of my on-again, off-again relationship with habit trackers. On this page we have my to-do before term 1 checklists. You can see task completion was very hit and miss. And then we have the first half week of December. On this page we have some notes about The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Can't say that I do any of these things in the morning, but I took down some notes all the same. We have some Christmas planning, so when, where, what, who, for both my Christmas gathering with my friends and then Christmas Day. Here we have a piece of paper, because, oh dear. This washi tape is particularly sticky, unfortunately, so the kind of gold foiling sections on both sides stick together. Here you can see I tried to change up my weekly spread, so instead of having a space for each day of the week on the left, I now have it at the top, and then the stuff down here is my to-do list, calendar, little trackers, that kind of stuff. Put this piece of paper back. So this one sticks to a lesser extent, still sticks though. Because at this point I'd gone on holidays, I didn't need quite as much space for each of my weeklies. So we have 1 week here and 1 week here. For the last little bit of December, I didn't really feel the need to set up a weekly because there really was not that much going on, but I did put in a little end of year review for myself. Again with a piece of paper to protect us from the sticky washi tape. So this had some little icons to kind of represent things that happened that year, and then a little level 10 life, and then some good points and some not so good points. Now, at the end of December, I had not really gotten very far in my journal. We're only on page 27, so I was not going to be starting a new journal for 2017. I did a little reflection about what I wanted to have in my journal for the year coming. So some pages that I wanted to start with, and then some pages to put in my next monthly. And as you can see, some of these didn't get finished either. There we go. Oh gosh, that is stuck. So this drawing here comes from that idea of the two wolves, like the good wolf and the bad wolf, and which wolf wins, it's the one you feed. So I wanted to have that as kind of like a cover page, but I did not finish it off. Not finished. We have a splash page for 2017. Again, you can really see the progress I've made with my lettering. And then we have my future log. So it had a little space for colouring in icons, so weekends, holidays, stuff like that. But didn't really use it. Oh, I also had little icons down the side here for when certain things are charged. So this would be like monthly rent, phone bill, internet, electricity. Did not get used. We had my big goals page for 2017, and then some affirmations related to those goals. Never actually ended up checking anything off, because I don't think they're really goals. They're kind of more like ideas for goals. No. We had a page for my savings and my weight loss tracker, which obviously I didn't use because I ended up sticking a piece of paper over it. Non-scale victories did not get used. My movies list, or list of movies I saw in 2017. I left myself a full page for this because I guess I thought I was going to fit the whole year into this journal, but that did not happen. I started a books to read page, well, books that I read page, but didn't even put a title in and didn't even finish drawing out the shelves. We have my meal planner, which has all of these little sticky notes with meals that we commonly eat, and then a space for each day of the week, so I could just kind of pull the sticky notes off and put them on the days we were having those meals. I also had a meal tracker here on a little Dutch door, so you can see I cut the top section off so I didn't have to rewrite the title. Go. And each of these had a little key as well to say whether I did eat what I was supposed to or didn't eat what I planned to, that kind of stuff. And I did start tallying those up, but didn't get very far. We had my cleaning spread. You know, I'm really bad with chores, so this one did not really work out at all, but I had a section for weekly tasks, monthly tasks, and then seasonal tasks. Things that I want, so essentially a wish list, and then experiences that I wanted to have. At the start of 2017, I thought that I was going to be tracking the same habits for the entire year. So I had this space to record my completion percentage, essentially. As you can see, that went well for January, and then no other month. I had a waiting on page for anything that I was ordering and then waiting to get shipped, but didn't really use that. Songs of 2017, so a place where I could record all of the songs that I really liked, but didn't really fill that one in either. I had a space here which was for the bad days, so it's a card that I got at the end of 2016 from one of my students, which was really heartfelt and sweet, so I put it in here just as a reminder of why I do what I do. We have some final reflection questions from Lisa Jacobs' New Year for a New You. And then we're into January. And this would have to be one of my most favourite cover pages that I have ever done. It took forever, but it was worth it. Monthly log and habit tracker, so still using the same style. We have my word of the month page, and that process lasted for a couple of months. On this page, I was going to put something related to goal setting, I think. Maybe something to do with SMART goals, or I don't know, I've got some penciling in here, but I can't really make out what it says. We have a memories page, a quote page, which again, very much highlights how far my lettering has come. So following that idea that I said at the start, where things aren't really in a sensible order, I had a social media tracker which was supposed to be used for the full year. And then we're on to my daily for the first day of 2017. An interesting looking weekly spread. Not really my favourite. These colours do not go together. You'll probably have noticed that I don't really have monthly themes at this stage. I kind of tried to loosely stick with a colour palette, so I think this one was very much about blues, maybe? I'm not too sure, maybe blue and bronze, given the washi tape colour that I used. Another weekly. We have my time of month or period tracker, my Xbox gamer score tracker, again, things in a weird order, another list of spreads that I wanted to draw, and then I tried my hand at rapid logging with a blue pen. Duh, that doesn't look nice. Trying out some more interesting styled weeklies. And then again, trying to have all of the days of January in the section for January, we just have the Monday and Tuesday. A page of washi tapes that I guess I decided I didn't really like. And then as we were getting into the start of school, I have my timetable for the year. And now we're into February. So you can see the washi tape that I used on the other page bled through. I don't know how washi tape bleeds through, but this one obviously did. So I tried my hand at a calendar style layout, but I think I made it just a little bit too small, so I didn't really use it. Didn't finish off the decoration, didn't write a monthly to-do list. Instead of having my habit tracker on one page and having to turn my book to use it, I tried to put it across a double page spread. But that one was very much hit and miss. My word of the month for February was flourish, and then we have another quote page. God, this looks unfortunate. You can see why I eventually moved away from the LT 1917 as well. Some more weeklies. Going back to that style that I had at the start. Hey, wait a second. I guess on this one I must have tried to write dailies as well as weeklies. That's a choice. I then put in this page called Do You Even Lift, which has nothing to do with like weights and weightlifting, and everything to do with how I got myself to school. So whether I got a lift in or if I took myself. We had some hearts that my students gave me from Galentine's Day. And more weeklies. This one's one of my favourite weeklies in this journal. I think that all of the colours kind of just tie together really nicely. So it had this little Dutch door in the middle, so a little folded Dutch door. So I could see kind of everything at a glance or from any side of the page, if that kind of makes sense. I wrote a list of things that I love, kind of in the celebration of Valentine's Day. And then this is where I started thinking about YouTube ideas. I didn't actually start my channel until a while after this, but I had some thoughts. Another weekly, which obviously I put in a Dutch door for and then just didn't use the back side of it. And then a little checklist for my chemistry topic planning. After this, we're into March. So obviously my colour palette for March was green. Well, you can't really call it a palette, it's just like two colours, dark green and not so dark green. And I guess this was the first time I used a steps tracker. We had my word of the month and what was supposed to be a quote page, but never ended up kind of coming to be. And some more weeklies, again with that same style. On this one, instead of using both sides of the Dutch door and then having more for that weekly over here, this is another separate week. So we have 1 week and another week. Another weekly. We had my Shave for a Cure page, because I did Shave for a Cure, obviously, on the 17th of March, it seems. A list of things that I needed to get done. And then the first iteration of what was attempted to be a monthly Instagram schedule. So I tried to plan it out so that each day of the month had a specific thing that I would post. So on the first of each month, I would post my habit tracker. On the second, I'd post my health tracker. But of course, I don't necessarily do the same type of page every month, so it doesn't really work. My first go at a gratitude log. Around this time, my computer was having problems, so I wrote a list of things to reinstall when my computer goes kaput. Some topic planning. Another weekly. Tried my hand at some dailies. Didn't find the time bar very useful, and in this part I kind of started writing my checklist too close to where I was supposed to put my header, so that didn't really work. I have a birthday card from my mum. Not that my birthday's in March, it's just that it was from the year before and I wanted to put it somewhere. Another weekly, though I think this one must go over 2 pages. yeah. So I had a big timetable here, and then my schedule, things that I needed to do that week, some little daily checklists. Obviously at this point I got over the idea of having only the days of a month within the confines of a month in my journal, because we've got April here. And then we're on to April for real. You can see in this journal, for my cover pages, I was very big on the idea of having like a circle cut out and then some kind of pattern. I do quite like that style. Trying my hand at a different style of monthly log. So it's still vertical, but I had a bit more space, and I had this part for, I believe, full day activities. And then I'm not too sure what the difference between this one and this one would be. Monthly to-do list. Habit tracker, which again did not get finished. Along with the health tracker. Well, obviously I died. Great start! Didn't get very far on the word of the month for April. Practicing some lettering from something that I found online. Another memories page, gratitude log. This must have been close to when I got my tombos, because I can remember playing around a lot with blending, and playing around with blending leading to bleeding. Tried my hand at a food log. Didn't go so well. And oh dear. This was me trying to learn how to use my soft tip brush pen, and since then I've decided soft tip brush pens aren't really for me. Another weekly, which must have gone over 2 pages. Tried my hand at another to do before the next term spread, but this one obviously didn't get filled in as much as my first one did. Another weekly, same style as before. This was when I was in Melbourne, which is why I think I was being a little bit relaxed about setting these up, because this is not aesthetic. My first Tombow dual brush pen reference sheet. So on this one I was using the Tombow color wheel order. So I think on the Tombow website they have a wheel that you can fill in with the pens that you have. But I decided I didn't really like this order for the colors, especially with regards to that one. That looks so incredibly out of place. So the next time that I did a reference sheet, I decided to put them in order the way I wanted them in order. This was me trying my hand at that kind of plastic bag watercolor trick, where you scribble with a Tombow on the plastic bag and then spray it with water and put it on the page. Doesn't look too bad, but I haven't really done it very effectively since. Some lettering practice. Started thinking about my next bullet journal because it was around this time that I was kind of getting sick of this one. I really just wanted a fresh start in a new journal. Doing some doodling. Doing some dailies. Again, playing around with my Tombows, so you can see I used the colourless blender to kind of blend the colour out into the gaps in between. A checklist, a sticker from the back of a food packet. Started setting up a weekly, did not get very far. Hand lettering challenge, and then we're into May. So May was the last month that I had in this bullet journal, because as you can see by some of these pages, I was starting to get very sloppy, very not caring about the work I was doing in here. Well, I figured out what those columns must have been in April, so it was AM versus PM. So my monthly log. My first iteration of my school scheduler. So for each column we have a period number, and then working our way across we must have each week. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, period 6. Nowadays I like to do that the other way around if I ever set this page up. So the periods would go down the page and then the weeks would go across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for weeks, and 1 to 6 for periods. We have my habit tracker, which again did not get finished. Health tracker, same deal. My food log, skipped a page there. Again, didn't finish filling it in. Memories and gratitude, similar idea. We have a trial of a Dutch door weekly, but I stuck way too much washi tape along here, because I think that I couldn't get this part in particular cut out really close to the spine, so I stuck the washi tape there to kind of try and mask that. Some notes about a house meeting, a page for obviously when I was feeling bitter because there were so many people getting engaged and married. Another messy weekly, and the dailies that went with it. Tried to go back to those dailies that I did previously, but didn't finish it. Some scribbly doodles. A quote that I liked from Assembly, and planned to letter nicely, but didn't. Weekly. The dailies that go with it. Some scribbling with a variety of pens, as you can see from the different types of bleeding we have here. A checklist for a course that I was doing. A different style of weekly. And the dailies that go with it. A couple of general thoughts, and then this is where I decided that my journal was over. After this we just have some scribbly kind of pages, then a whole bunch of blank pages. Bit of washi tape. I think that washi tape separates the perforated pages from the not perforated pages. Trialing around with some different layout ideas. Some notes from a staff meeting. Some other checklist style stuff. And then kind of just scribble pages. And in the back pocket here, we just have some birthday cards. Not sure what this is. This was a form time activity where everybody had to write their name on a piece of paper, and then people would go around and write things like nice messages about that person. So, thanks team. But yeah, that's pretty much it. As you saw, in this journal there was a lot of experimentation, a lot of hit and miss. And compared to my more recent journals, this one was a mess. Over 3.5 years on though, I am really glad that I started, and I'm really glad that I stuck with it. Obviously my journaling has changed a lot since this journal. So when I use weeklies, I don't just use the same style over and over again. I've got a much better relationship with my habit tracker now as I found a style that actually works for me. And gosh dang, my hand lettering is so much better. I hope this video kind of acts as an example for any of you guys who are just starting out. Please don't get too down on yourself if things aren't perfect or exactly the way you want them to be. This stuff takes practice and it takes time to figure out what you like, what works, how to draw a cursive R that doesn't look really bloody dumb. All that kind of stuff. With that said though team, thank you for watching. If you liked today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you wanted to see more from me, feel free to go check out one of my other videos. Until next time, bye!